setup, and we've already done the diplomacy phase, and we've already done naval movement. Now, the French, so he declared war on Baden and Württemberg. Looks like the big clash is ready. Now, everybody was on the understanding that Prussia and Austria, who are allies, and Russian and British, were all allies, but only the French and Austrians and the Russians and me are at war with the French. The Prussians did not declare war, and the French did not declare war on the Austrians, and the Prussians and the Austrians did not call them the ally. So I don't know what's going on with that. So me and Russia have discussed some plans. So we don't know what's going on with that. As far as my setup went, I saw all the Spanish pretty strong, which they're probably walking across here, but what I did is I put a depot in Gibraltar and one corps. And then making sure I have fleets up here. And then I blockaded this because he has two fleets here. And so I put a blockade on that. And then he has a fleet over here in La Roche and one down in Toulon. I can set up an adjacent sea zone next to a port. So I set up Nelson and two fleets right here in this sea zone. If this fleet sneaks by, I can intercept, or if this one comes up and intercepts. That's my thinking of that. Here, I had two other French fleets. I have all 7 French fleets on the board. With a corps, I declared war on Sardinia. So I moved out here. I moved last. The Spanish had moved into this sea zone. They declared war on Algeria and Morocco, and they chose not to intercept me. I'm not at war with the Spanish. We're not allies either. The Turks have declared war on Egypt. They came over by fleet, and it looks like they're going to march here through Palestine. And the Turks and Britain are allies. So, again, this is a beginner game, and we're going to start right now with the French turn. So pretty much it's Britain, Austria, Russia at war with the French right now. Austria, though, is allies also with everybody on the board except the French. So he made alliance with everybody. So Turkey's not going to bother him. Russia is going to come and bring help. That's part of our plan. Again, this goes up on a video, so I'm not giving too much information. But you'll see how the game's going, and this is how beginners set up. It looked like right here the Austrians and the Prussians set up this whole line against the French, but the Prussians, remember, did not declare war on the French. The Russians are set up. It looked like they were ready to march through Prussia, and I think he was a little dazed that Prussia didn't go to war, so he should be coming down to Austria here. And they did declare war on Sweden. However,
to make this point clear, talking about this game for about 3 months that we were going to play, so people that are playing the other countries are seniors in high school, and they've been talking to each other about how they're going to kick each other's butt. So this has kind of turned into a who's the strongest man on the mountain between the Russians, Austrians, and the French. So when Russia declared war on Sweden, I made a deal. I got control of Sweden, and we came up with a deal. I'm going to take Sweden. He's going to get Finland. Again, they are new players, and we're not playing face to face, so I don't know really what transpired, but it seems like Russia may be panicking a little bit, and Austria mainly slightly panicking, so they changed their plan. So I don't know what their total thinking was, but I got Sweden out of it.
the French, I think, failed in diplomacy. and he does not have one person on his side. There's not one ally with him. Remember, the Spanish are neutral with me and the French. They're doing their own thing down here in the Med. So France is by himself right now. But with that being said, the only people he's fighting is Austria. The Prussians are out of it, and the Russians, of course, aren't here yet. And, I don't have a whole lot of troops, so we'll see what happens. It looks like he garrisoned his country pretty well. They're all around. So, that's our setup and declarations of war. So we just finished turn 1. And the French have gone into Baden and Württemberg and has taken Baden, destroyed the core in Württemberg, but they still don't own Stuttgart, so they don't have Württemberg yet. Prussia took Mecklenburg. No forces have moved against each other there because they weren't at war. The English took Sardinia. The Spanish.
Now, it seems like I'm probably out of the loop on this because these guys all, go to school together and probably play other games. So it seems what happened here in Africa, the Spanish attacked the Algerian garrison here and defeated the army. The army retreated in the city. Then he laid siege and he got that. So he ended up conquering Algeria. But in Morocco, the French, and I think the Turks had control of that. In Morocco, the French took control of that, and the French set up their corps away from the capital and allowed the Spanish to occupy the capital. So he took Morocco without a fight.
Same thing here. Russia and Turkey came to some agreement, and Turkey was allowed to take Egypt. And yeah, Russia seems like a real easy deal here for us. Prussians are really staying north. I don't know what's going on with Denmark, but I would sure like that.
Russia, due to it being winter, has come into Austria a couple land areas.
Turn 2 would have change of events. Prussia broke their alliance with Austria and Russia and has shifted from the forces that were up here back to here.
And the Prussians declared war on Denmark. The French gained control of it, and the Prussians didn't invade it. So the French ended up getting Denmark as a free state, just like I did as British getting Sweden. So we both got extra ships. So I got to hand it to the French. I don't know if it was a master plan between the French and the Prussians from the beginning, the way the Prussians were set up on the west and the north, and now he just turned around 180 and handed Denmark to French. So the French must be offering Prussian, the world. So now it's France and Prussia against Russia, Austria, and England. And to make matters worse, I found out from Turkey, because I've been talking to Turkey, that they are not joining the war against the French, which the Austrians had them coming in on his side. But apparently the Austrian player had told Prussia that he was going to attack Turkey later on, and Prussia told Turkey that. So the Turks are a little now annoyed with the Austrians, so they're not going to help in the war. So Austria, who started this grand alliance with me, is now just turned it into him and Russia on the land. So we're going to come up with something that we're going to do to counter this move.
I'm trying to get in talks with the Spanish right now and trying to get him on our side with his fleets.
Close where exactly my ship
and
combination
Austria
is,
and Charles and Napoleon are coming together right there.
Factors.
The English have lost 10 ships.
I've got some ships in there.
The Danes 6,
and
Holland 4,
London,
and the French
I have
5.
1 corps and 1 cavalry.
But the French started with 2 fleets in Brest, 1 in La Roche, and 1 one in Toulon. The Spanish started with all 3 down in the Med.
Now my ships, I don't really want to disclose the exact factors I have in the fleet counters, but the ones up here in England don't have a lot. They're there just to keep him off guard. The corps and the cavalry are really protecting London.
And then to blockade Brest, I threw the first fleet there with just 15 ships. And in case the French got through here with this, because I was figuring he didn't put his entire fleet there, I put Nelson and 2 fleets out here in this sea zone to intercept. And then I had the second blockading Brest. And down here I had the fifth.
So the French really have been doing, in my opinion, pretty well, getting the Danish fleet, and then using those ships, he came out to attack and fight, and I obliged him. We've gone for 4 fleet battles. 2 were against the English and the Danes. 1 was against the English and the Dutch. And then 1 battle was between the French and the English down in the Mediterranean, and the English won all 4. But the French succeeded in their goal because they killed 10 English ships, and the French have only lost 5. Now the Dutch have lost 6, or the Danes have lost 6, and the Dutch have lost 4. So even though I'm destroying more ships, the French, I've only killed sunk half as many ships. So we have a plan that the Russians are going to come down, bring their fleet, and help me start to blockade all the French ships and get an advantage in the naval battle, so we can sink a lot more of them or just keep them in port. And I do have the Swedish fleets that are going to help. So I'm matching with the French. I'm keeping the ratio that I started the game with the same. He got the Danes and the Dutch. I've got Sweden and Russia. And that is the end of the first 2 turns.